Hey everybody, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. No, this is not a new pen day video, and no, I do not have 3 different vanishing points here. I wanted to show off and compare the MajohnA1, the Jinhao10, and compare it to my Pilot Vanishing Point. Now, if you've been around the fountain pen world for even just the last few months, you'll probably have already seen videos of the MajohnA1 and the Jinhao10. The reason that I wanted to do a video today was to show you basically my thoughts on these. I've had the the Majohn 10 for a few months now, and the Jinhao10 for a little over a month, and I've had a vanishing point of some sort in the last few years. So I wanted to compare my experience with them, look at the different price points, but also what makes them different, what are pros and cons of each. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to mention is where I purchased these from. I purchased the MajohnA1 and the Jinhao10 from AliExpress, and then I purchased the Pilot Vanishing Point actually from Amazon in the US. As an Amazon affiliate, I get paid in Amazon gift cards, and I decided to use my gift card towards a Pilot Vanishing Point. But the Pilot Vanishing Point you can purchase actually at most retailers, both Canadian and US, but you can also purchase it off of Amazon. And I know that some people have different opinions about purchasing from Amazon or purchasing from AliExpress. I won't go into that in this video here. I'm just mentioning where I purchased these from. So with the AliExpress purchase of these two, the MajohnA1 is going from anywhere, let's see here, from $21 Canadian to I'm seeing it for as high as $27 Canadian. What comes with this though is obviously the clickety-click action, but you also get the converter, which definitely looks different to the Con 40 converter that you get with the Pilot Vanishing Point. But also there are other items included with that. So there was also a actually that cartridge I think was a Pilot Vanishing Point, but there's a cover for the cartridge, an empty cartridge that you could fill with ink, as well as the pipette. So that also came with the MajohnA1. Now with the Jinhao10, the Jinhao10 is ranging from anywhere from I've seen one at $14.43 Canadian all the way up to $27.79 Canadian. The one that's currently on $27.79 is the caramel coffee color, which I admit I also purchased because it looks so close to the Pilot Vanishing Point whiskey, which is very limited. You cannot find that anymore. So with the Jinhao10, it arrived just like this, but then came with a converter as well. So far, what I'm actually gonna show what that looks like here between all 3 of them. The inner part of all 3, so the actual nib unit, looks pretty much the same. So let me zoom that in here. If you're looking just at the nib unit of each of these, so we've got the Majohn, the Jinhao, and the Pilot Vanishing Point, the nib unit actually looks very, very similar. And actually the nib units between the 3 are interchangeable. You can use a Pilot Vanishing Point nib unit in the Majohn and in the Jinhao as well. One of the things that you will notice the difference is actually there is a breather hole in the nib unit, and this is an 18 karat gold nib. And then there is no breather hole in that, and there's no breather hole in that as well. And then pretty much this little, I say knob, that is sticking out here is also identical in the 3 of them, but there's also a difference between the types of converters. One thing I want to show you with the nib unit is that when you are putting the nib unit in, that little knob there goes directly into that notch in the Pilot Vanishing Point, and same with the the Jinhao10. But look what happens when you put that into the Majohn. It won't actually go in. There's a spring in there that prevents it from going in. You have to push that a little bit harder for that to go in. But if you want to see if the Jinhao10 goes in there, it does, but there is a spring down at the bottom, which you don't have with the other two pens. So that is interesting. Now, one of the things that I have noticed between the three of them in terms of filling, it's still difficult to see how much you're filling with the way that this nib unit is set up. The Con 40, the Pilot Con 40, is just ridiculously difficult to fill, and these converters for the Majohn and the Jinhao are definitely easier, but because of the way the nib unit goes all the way up like that, it's still difficult to see the ink level. So that's, I think, one thing that is not great about the overall nib unit. But I'm gonna go ahead and put these back, and you'll see in terms of putting it back like that. It's interesting that that is one thing that's different here about that. So I'm going to put these all back together. So as I mentioned, the Pilot Vanishing Point has an 18 karat gold nib, whereas the Jinhao and the Majohn both have steel nibs. So there is definitely going to be a difference in the writing experience. Not to say that the writing experience is bad, there is definitely a difference. One thing I'm also seeing in terms of the difference here is in the clip. So the Majohn, I'll show you here, the Majohn and the Pilot Vanishing Point have very similar clips. There's a little bit of a curve towards there, whereas the Jinhao is just straight. One other thing that is different here is the bands, I guess, in the middle. The MajohnA1 is a thick band like this, and then Jinhao is a thick band like that, whereas the Pilot Vanishing Point is almost two bands that meet in the middle like that. So small, minor differences. Oh, and I've just mixed them up here. Another difference between the offerings between MajohnA1 and the Jinhao10 is just the difference in colors. I think Jinhao is really trying to replicate or be inspired by the different colors that the Pilot Vanishing Point has come out with in the last couple of years, especially the limited editions. This definitely looks familiar from, it's a 2023 release of the Pilot Vanishing Point, so that colorway looks very familiar, and the caramel one that just came out is very reminiscent of the Pilot Vanishing Point whiskey. Now, another thing I want to compare is just the different weights of these, because I actually had my husband try these out and he's like, oh, I think he liked this one better because it was the heaviest, but let's compare the weights of these. First, we have the Pilot Vanishing Point, and that is 32 grams. Then we have the Jinhao10, that one is 34 grams. And then the MajohnA1, which is 31 grams. So that one is the lightest by a gram. So they're only off by a couple of grams. Still very, very close though. Now, how do these pens feel in my hand? The way that I grip my pens, I have, I guess, a general, is it a trifold grip? I don't know enough about grips, but this for me is actually comfortable. I'm not at all bothered by the clip down here. So having the Pilot Vanishing Point or the Majohn or the Jinhao, they're all quite comfortable for me. Now, depending on the way you hold your pen, this might not be comfortable for you. I know a lot of people who are very, very much against having the clip there because of just the way they hold the pen, if they hold it like this or if they hold it like that. So the clip can be a, what is it? It's, I want to say something that definitely splits people apart and makes people argue about whether or not they like this pen. Whereas, yeah, the Jinhao doesn't have that curvature at that part of the clip, but I actually don't find that it seems to affect me too much. Now that I'm trying to notice it, I do feel a little bit of a difference when I put my thumb and pointer finger there, but it's not too much of a difference that it would bother me. And then the Pilot Vanishing Point is really actually comfortable when I hold it like that. Where I place my fingers, the clip doesn't bother me at all. Now, one thing I also want to show you is just the clicking action and how, well, what the clicking action is like. So I'll show you here. One of the important things about the Vanishing Point, I'll actually show you the Vanishing Point first, is that it has that clicking mechanism where it will open the door to show the nib, and I don't know if I'm focusing that well, but if you see the door there, it opens and out comes the nib. And it's so convenient. I love having this in my planner to just click, easy to ink up or pen up. Basically easy to start writing whenever, wherever. The same goes for the Jinhao10. And I'm actually trying to look at it from the screen here. Yeah, so again, a really good mechanism, and same with the MajohnA1. Now I know Doodlebud has done a really great video looking at the more technical aspects of each of these 3 pens, and I highly recommend his video. I'm not as technical as he is. I'm just showing you what I like about them, and really I don't think there's anything that I don't like about them. One of the things that I came across when using the MajohnA1, what am I saying? One of the things that I came across when I was using this was it had a lot of hard starts. So I wondered, is it the ink that I'm using? What was it? And I was actually using Diatramentis Document Black in this, and it kept hard starting. I was not a fan. So I tried a different ink in here. I have Diamine Earl Grey in here now. And even if I haven't inked it up or used it in a while, it still works. I know that the Vanishing Point, but these, the Majohn and the Jinhao with this mechanism don't have the best capping mechanism. So hard starts and all of that and evaporation is going to be an issue. But the issue was exacerbated by the fact that I was using document ink. But now that I'm using Diamine Earl Grey, works wonderfully. I'm going to do a quick writing sample with all of these to show you the nib size, but also just give you my overall opinion of the writing. So I'll be doing my writing sample in my Hobonichi notebook with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. And if you can see the leather cover, it's got the Galen leather A5 leather cover. All right, I need blotting paper because knowing me, I do. All right, the first pen that I'll be using is the Pilot Vanishing Point, and this is in the black Carbonesque. So this is the Pilot Vanishing Point, and I really love this 18 karat nib. Black Carbonesque. And this has the 18 karat fine nib, and it is inked with Pilot Hiroshizuku Take Sumi. And I think this pen will be permanently inked with that. This is the pen that I want to use as a planner pen, my out and about pen, so it's going to be permanently inked with that. It's not a pen that's actually going to be in rotation when I change inks for the month. But I love this nib. This nib is so smooth and bouncy and very wet. Hardly any feedback, and I love that. Love that. So that is the writing experience with the Pilot Vanishing Point. The next one that I'm going to show here is the MajohnA1, and I can't remember what the exact model or colorway was called. It is Fish Scale Gray. So this is the, oh, and now it is hard starting. Look at that. And maybe it was because that I took it out of the pen. Look at that. See, hard starting. Whereas that did not hard start even after I had taken all of the nib units out of the pens. So let's see. What can I do? Okay, here we go. Oh, no. Let's see what I can do here. Maybe. Or am I actually out of ink? I could be out of ink. Out of all, gosh. Yeah, there's no ink coming through, so I think I'm out of ink. I'm out of ink. Okay, so ignore what I just said about that hard starting. It's because I was out of ink. All right, so I've actually re-inked it with the same ink, Pilot Vanishing, or Pilot Iroshizuku Takesumi. So this is the, oh, it's still taking a moment to go through. Here we go. MajohnA1 in the fish gray scale. And this is in the steel extra fine nib. It's turning a little gray because I think some of the diamond Earl Grey is still in there, but you can see already the difference in the nib size. And then this is, oh sorry, this is also inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Takesumi with probably some leftover residue of diamond Earl Grey. But this nib is smooth and has feedback, but is finer than the Pilot Fine. I really like the crisp line of the MajohnA1. I really like using this in my Hobonichi weeks because it is a smaller grid. So I really enjoy being able to use this ink and this nib because of how much finer that is. So actually, for a less expensive Pilot Vanishing Point dupe, the writing experience is actually quite good. The last one I'm going to show you is the Jinhao10, and this is in the, I believe, the blue ombre. So this is the Jinhao10 in the blue ombre, and this has the steel, what they call extra fine nib. Now they didn't offer the extra fine nib until I think just recently, so I can just imagine what their fine nib must look like. And this is inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukio. Now you'll notice that it is actually darker, and that is because there is some evaporation happening with this one. But this nib is bouncy, smooth, bit of feedback, like a tiny bit of feedback. Definitely more feedback than the Pilot Vanishing Point nib, but a good writer. Ooh. Like, I really enjoy writing with this. I wrote a couple of journal entries with this pen, and I really, really enjoyed writing with that. So, what are my final thoughts on these three? So there are all three pens here. We have the MajohnA1, the Jinhao10, and the Pilot Vanishing Point. Now, I know for a lot of people, buying the Pilot Vanishing Point is a big investment, and a lot of people don't want to make that investment if they don't know whether this pen is going to be comfortable for them. I recommend actually purchasing a MajohnA1 or a Jinhao10 to try it out. The prices are reasonable for this pen. You can get them at Amazon or AliExpress, and you can really decide whether that placement of the clip and the overall design of the pen is for you. And to be perfectly honest, not everybody needs to upgrade to the Pilot Vanishing Point. If you do decide to try this one day and realize that maybe that the 18 karat nib is worth it for you, then great. But if you stick to this price point, the MajohnA1 and the Jinhao10, you're still getting a great writing experience, a great engineered pen, and at a great price point. So I really like these three pens, and I like them for different reasons, but I love the fact that with the Majohn and the Jinhao, I have alternatives to the Pilot Vanishing Point. Lucy's whining here because I'm talking so much. I have alternatives to the Pilot Vanishing Point that I can throw in my purse and not be worried about losing a $200 pen. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Lucy, I'm almost done. I will also link Doodlebud's video in the description below if you want a more technical review of these two pens. All right, thank you all so much for watching and have yourselves a great day.